Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
You seem pretty happy to be here.
Every time I'm in front of the camera, I'm happy.
I don't know if I believe that or not. So, hey, Todd Barton here, Wally Hawkins from the Barton Real Estate Group at Signature Real Estate. Just wanted to jump on today and have some conversation around a transaction that you just recently, I don't know, how do you call it? Transacted? Is that a word?
We can go with that for now.
All right. So tell us, so I think a lot of people don't understand kind of what goes into or what happens behind the scenes of a real estate transaction. And so
I would agree.
You just had an experience where you had three going at one time, and they were all
same client.
With the same client, and they were all interdependent on each other, right? So we just kind of wanted to touch base on that, kind of get a sense of what happened, like how to go. What? Tell me about it.
Well, there was a lot of ups and downs. I don't think most people realize that if they're buying one house, in the 30-day escrow process, the ups and downs, and as you get closer to the end, the ups and downs get a little more stressful, a little more tense.
A little more, they happen faster, right? Like you go from here to here in hours instead of days.
And that's natural with every escrow, okay? But we had one client, 3 different properties, all essentially closing within a week, all essentially closing very close to each other. So what we're saying is we're taking this and multiplying it by 3, the intensity of the ride.
On the same client. It was a husband and wife.
It was a husband, wife, and mother. So the deal was I met them at an open house. The open house I was doing was the type of property they were looking for. They were looking for a single level home that had at least one bedroom on the other side.
Okay.
Whether it be a master, whether it be whatever the case may be, so that they wanted to sell the mom's home, sell their home, take that money, combine it, and buy a home to move mom into so they could take care of mom. Mom's getting older.
Yeah. So we're actually seeing this quite a bit where families are combining into one home, whether it be to take care of an elderly parent or whether it be, college students who come back home after school and want to live in the same property until they can kind of get their careers going. So we actually see that quite a bit. That's not abnormal, but this one was a little more.
Well, let's add to it. It's not just that. They wanted some specific things. They wanted it to be a single story. They had to have RV parking.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the stressors was where they have like a 40-foot fifth wheel trailer that they needed someplace to park. And so RV parking in Las Vegas is not super easy to find. And then when you have a market like we have today that inventory is super low, there's not a lot of houses for sale anyway. You add on the fact that it absolutely had to be a single story, right? Couldn't be a 2-story. Absolutely had to have RV parking, right? So those 2 factors alone.
And the bedroom on the other side.
Yeah, so a separate bedroom from the master, or some type of mother-in-law quarters, or some type of separate living, a casita, or were they open to a casita?
They were, but that's even fewer and farther between.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of those around. So, but you did it, right? I mean,
well, I would say we did it, the team, because if it was just left on top of my shoulders, I don't know if I'd have made it through that alive.
Yeah, you might have figured it out, but it was stressful.
Not only was it stressful for them, then the stress started to fall onto me. And yes, it was even for me, it was very stressful.
Yeah, sometimes things get going so crazy that you just can't. Yeah, you got the same thing happening, and one of the hard parts for us in relation with our client was it was very difficult to keep the 3 transactions separate in their world, because they really just started to flow together, and it was hard for them to separate what's happening on this property and what's happening on that property. One thing that's just maybe unknown to the world about real estate is that every single real estate transaction is different. Like you'll never have a transaction that goes exactly the same way the last one did or another one. Everyone's different. They were selling 2 homes. So the mom owned a home. Correct. And they owned a home together, and they needed to sell both of those. And then the challenge also was that they had to go find a new home.
Right. And they needed to have buyers for their homes that would be willing to give rent backs because they were going to need time to get into the other home. We needed a lot of things to happen. We got very lucky with some great buyers for them.
Yeah, we found them.
And actually a great seller on the house that they bought.
Yeah, she was in a big hurry. It was vacant. She had already moved back to some other state, Chicago, or I thought Florida.
Maybe it was.
She's either
Florida.
Freezing to death or she's in the sun. One or the other. I'm not sure which. So yeah, we had to. There were a lot of factors, right? And so let's just talk through that for just a second. So we have a listing that we take, and we need to sell this listing. And the plan was we'd sell the mom's house first, and she would then, at the time that closed, move into the home they lived in currently.
Right.
And so we got her home put on the market. We got it under contract fairly quickly. I think it was, just over the weekend.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
within the first week.
So we only list homes on Thursdays because of some specific.
Try it again.
Wow. For some specific reasons, we only list homes on Thursdays. And then by Monday or Tuesday, we had multiple showings, multiple offers. We're in a super hot seller's market. Buyers are doing crazy things to get houses under contract, which was in advantage for our seller, was that she got multiple offers. So presented those offers to her. They picked an offer. We got it signed. Seemed like the best offer at the time of what we had. And we were in escrow for 7 days.
Maybe.
7 or 8 days, and the buyer canceled.
And the buyer canceled. The buyer, by the way, was a golfer.
Yep.
The house is on the golf course, which is one of the reasons I think he bought it. But then for some strange reason is when he saw some divots in the stucco in the back, he wanted out.
Yeah, so you buy a house on a golf course and it's going to have golf ball marks on the back of the house, right? I mean, that's pretty common knowledge, and somehow they decided that the ones that were on the back of this house were not ones they wanted to take possession of. So they canceled the contract, and at that time we had the home that the husband and wife had. We had that home listed.
Right.
And there were an enormous amount of activity on this house because it was RV parking.
It was very unique. It was a single story. It had the RV parking, and they had a lot of nice things in the house.
And there was no HOA.
And there, yeah.
So this house was like the unicorn of houses on the market, right? They had RV parking that had concrete, was paved. It was easy to get an RV in and out of. It was a single story home. It was a very nice home, and it didn't have an HOA. Right, so this was like the unicorn of houses in the valley at the time, and might even be today. I mean, I think if you go search for a home that has RV parking that is not in an HOA and is a single story, there might be one or two.
And it was a very nice neighborhood. Even without the HOA, it was nice.
So we had that home listed,
right,
and so that's where, of course, presenting offers and talking to the sellers about which one might be the best fit for them. And in that one, because that was the home they were going to live in until they found the home they were going to buy, and all of them were going to move in, we absolutely needed a rent back of some kind, right? We needed to be able to make sure that once we closed escrow, that they had at least a 59-day lease back. And by the way, the 59 days is specific to types of lending out there. Most lenders won't do a loan that the buyer of the property doesn't occupy it within 60 days. And so we knew we had about a 59-day threshold there, and then we had, their escrow time. And so we found an offer on that one, had several. And
we got a great offer on that one because the buyer was able to give them the 59 days.
Yeah, with no issues. I mean, there was no challenges with 59. He even wrote, we got them an offer on that house well over list price. Which, by the way, the mother's house on the golf course, we also got an above list price offer the first time.
Yeah.
And the second time, right, with the second buyer that we found. So then we get their home under contract, and then we go back, of course, to the mother's home and get it back under contract. And so we've already introduced into their world, a buyer, three different buyers on two different houses. We've got escrow involved. We've got our transaction coordinator, you, me, inspectors, appraisers. Like all of these people start to get introduced into their world, and it becomes pretty stressful and very difficult to actually manage.
Because they both work at the same time.
Yeah, true. They were both full time working. Seems like one of them worked from home though.
No, she did go to an office.
Oh, she did.
She
Okay.
did some HR stuff from an office.
Okay. So, but I think the important part is understand here is that, man, this just sends everybody into a tailspin because they can't remember what inspector is for which house and when is the appraisal on which, which house is that on? And, so there's challenges of tracking time frames. Every real estate contract, there's some specific time frames in those contracts that have to be tracked and have to be met. And so we had to, of course, we take that. That's something that we do as a team. Is we're very good at tracking time frames and making sure that all of the time frames or the terms of the contract are being executed correctly. And it's our challenge sometimes to help our clients understand what all that means.
Right.
Right. So
I think that's part of the stress, not understanding some of the process. Even though we do talk to them and say, okay, once it gets into escrow, these are the things that are going to happen. But with life, you forget because you don't do it all the time.
Yeah, they get busy and it's just hard, And then so we finally get both of them under contract, and again now we have inspectors going to both properties, scheduling those appointments, making sure that the mom can be out of the property for that inspection, and making sure that they're not home. Because inspections take, 2.5 hours, and you don't really want to be there when the inspector's doing it. It's just easier for the whole world if the inspector can get in there, do their job, and get out without having a bunch of people watching them and following them around kind of thing. So scheduling all that, scheduling the appraisals and all those things. And then the real pressure is now mounted because now we've got 30 or 45 days before we close escrow on the house they're living in. And then we've got to go find a property, right? We got to get an offer accepted in today's market, which is not easy if you're on the buy side.
And they had a checklist of things that they required for the house they were going to buy, and that wasn't easy, especially in this market.
Yeah, again, kind of replacing a unicorn.
One house that was amazing, except that the RV parking from the garage to the fence was 3 feet short.
So it was like 37 feet or something, and it was
they
needed 40
house,
or something, or 41.
And we couldn't find out from the HOA if they would be allowed to extend the fence out 3 feet. But they loved the house.
But it wouldn't work.
Right.
So we're out looking again.
Right.
So you found them a home that they also loved.
Right.
And got that under contract. We got very lucky with a seller that had recently fallen out of escrow for some reason. We don't even know why. But she was in a hurry to get it sold. She didn't live there anymore. And got that under contract. And then, I don't know 3/4 of the way through that escrow, we ran into a repair problem.
We did. We ran into what looked like to be a pretty big deal. Enough for the buyers to consider bailing out, which we didn't. If that would have happened, that would have really ramped up the intensity of finding another home.
Yeah, because they had again we're already inside of our our close of escrow, and then we're starting the 59-day.
Right.
We also got lucky on the home they were selling because the buyer was actually another agent in town, and he understood the situation, and he could have been a little more flexible. So yeah, a lot of stress, a lot of things. Got all three of them closed though.
We did.
Bam, bam.
All within a week.
Mom's closed. She moved in with them. Theirs closed. They took about 30 days or so, 25 days to go into the new home that they were buying and do some repairs and some painting and get it ready. And they're going to actually get into that property, I think, this weekend.
Yep.
So
yeah, they are.
Super excited. All right. Well, I think it's important to talk about some of the experiences we have in this business and kind of talk about how difficult it can be. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, it was,
But thanks to your help. And
I think
the
you
rest of the
came to me
team.
one time and said, "I'm done. I'm out of here. See you later. I'm over this." So it did get to be very stressful, and but it did get done. And I know you've met with them last week again, I think, and they're just super happy with how it all
They're
went.
very happy with us. Very happy with me.
Of course.
Said they're referring my name out all over the place. Be prepared for calls. So
Cool. Well, good. I hope they love the home, and again, good job.
thank you.
It's a tough one to get closed. All right, cool.